Hello again, and welcome back to the Shadow Gallery. I'm your host, James Donnelly, and this week we're going to talk comics and movies. We're going to talk first about comics, and then about a film that I recently just saw, which is called Black Death. I believe it's actually being somewhat released in theaters this week. But it's been on iTunes and on demand prior to its release, so I was able to see it that way. But first, let's get to the comics. Let's start there. This was a very, very, very light week. So there's only 3 comics that I have to talk about, really. So let's go then. So first, we're going to talk about issue 2/4 of HAWKEYE BLINDSPOT, which again, this is an offshoot of Widowmaker, dealing with Hawkeye gradually going blind. And this issue is particularly lovely in the sense that it's really dealing a lot with Hawkeye's past, how he started as, a kind of criminal who thought he was doing the right thing, but he was actually, not, he was doing bad things with good intentions, in a way. And then there is an extended fight between Hawkeye and Steve Rogers, because obviously these two have a great deal of history together. And it was really nice to see these two kind of duking it out the way that they used to in the olden days of the Avengers, when Hawkeye was consistently contesting Cap's authority as far as an Avenger. We have our special guest, Chloe, my cat. Hi there, little girl. It's it ends again with another shock of who exactly might be behind some of the misery that's been confronting Hawkeye as of late. But going through the entirety of his not through the entirety of his experiences with the Avengers, but when he was briefly Goliath, chose to enhance his strength, and it's just it's good stuff. It's just it's a really well done comic. It's it's exciting, it's interesting, and it gives us good insight into somebody who's been somebody who's not a major player for reasons that I honestly don't know about. I don't understand why Hawkeye hasn't been more centralized throughout many years of being in comics, always kind of playing this second fiddle character. And I'm glad that he's finally somebody that's getting his due. Sorry, it's really hard. Anyway, we're gonna move on to second one of the week. So this is Jennifer Blood #2, Garth Ennis's new series. Some people are calling it the female Punisher. It was bagged at my comic store for a reason. This is particularly violent, and it opens up with one of the funniest sexual moments that I've seen in recent comics, and that's mostly because I haven't been picking up The Boys, which is Garth Ennis's other sex and violence riddled comic book, which was a lot of fun, and I just kind of dropped out of it. It was it was starting to get maybe a little old, but in this issue we start to delve a little bit into who Jennifer might be. It goes a lot into because this is told entirely from Jennifer's point of view and through her quote-unquote war journal, which is basically just her diary. she she goes into a lot of detail about balancing this suburban housewife life with her night job, which is that of a mobster killing vigilante. So it's been a really fun read, and we start to get a little bit into who she maybe might have been before, and what exactly her history is. And that's one of the cool things about comics in this day and age, and that was something I was thinking about while I was reading the comic, is that it's no longer just, okay, your first issue is your origin story, where you have to condense the entire character into just one issue. Who says that has to be the way that things the way that things go? And since comics have matured, because people who grew up with comics still read them by and large. So, because it's one of the things about comics is that it's really not just a phase. It is something that people take with them throughout their lives. And because of that, I think that we have this more mature readership now, and people can take stuff like Alan Moore's Lost Girls, or other really avant-garde comics that kind of blur the line between what is art and what is just simply in maybe not the best taste. By the way, if you haven't heard of or read Alan Moore's Lost Girls, you're kind of missing out, because it's one of the best things he's ever done, and it really does bring some attention to the argument between art and pornography. It's a disturbing read, to be certain. It's not meant to titillate, or even though the sex is extremely graphic, it's pretty much X-rated. It's not like some Avatar Presses or Rebel Studios early stuff, like with Faust, where it's all sex and violence, and or like 777 The Wrath, or things like things that were created by David Quinn and Tim Vigil. And which is not to say that they're necessarily bad reads. They're actually kind of interesting. It's just that there is a lot of focus on the sex and on the violence. Much more so than there should be. Anyway, moving on. So our third and final comic, and I would say will be pick of the week, is Venom #1, the new Venom. Now this is a comic that I wasn't actually even going to pick up, but a local manager at Atomic Comics said this was his pick of the week, and I usually trust their judgment, so I went with it. And I've been reading the backstories that have been in recent issues of Amazing Spider-Man, and seeing how Flash Thompson is basically becoming the new Venom, and that Venom is now going to be, essentially a kind of a black ops, military agent. And in reading this and seeing what the struggle is between between Flash and the psyche of the symbiote, it makes for a really good read. And there's just some crazy shit going on in this issue, man. There's some really awful stuff as far as the actual events. But Rick Remender, he's a good writer. Some really nice art by Tony Moore. It's just it's a good comic. If it gets better, I think I'll start picking it up. Another comic that, but that's really all that I have to say about that. But another comic that if you haven't been reading, you should start reading. I just started reading it myself, and it's really excellent. And that's Avengers Academy. By Christos Gage, who's a writer that I really like. He did the recent work on Invaders Now, which I loved, and a lot of other stuff. So try and pick that up. So we'll be back with my discussion on Black Death. So see you in a bit.